My name is Bonnie Haegele, and before I married, I was Bonnie Reed. And I grew up in the house where my father was born, and I was born too. And it's about 3 miles south of here. And I started first grade here in Cane Hill. And our first teachers was first, second, and third grade was Pauline Irwin. Our second, third, and fourth teacher was Sue Skinner. Our fourth, fifth, and sixth was Lois Nolan. And then we had seventh and eighth was Lon Moore. And I was going to get to go upstairs in the next time, and I was really looking forward to that, but they sent us to Lincoln instead. So in 1950, we went to the Lincoln School. And I enjoyed Cane Hill very much. We played a lot of running. They played Indians and Cowboys out in the field there, and you'd run from one side and then you get to go the other way. And we played basketball a lot. And one thing was, there in front of the college, from the door over, we used to walk across that rail there, the little walk place on the college building. And most of the time you didn't fall off. It wasn't too far if you did. And let's see, I remember riding on a school bus. That was one of the things I thought about. And the first school bus that I remember was not a bus like you have now. It had benches on the side of the thing. It may have been someone had a truck and put some benches in. They come around and pick the kids up. I don't know. But I remember sitting on benches on the side of the bus. And another time, our bus left second. They went somewhere else first. And so we had to sit up down there by the walk and wait for the bus to come back and pick us up. And I can still remember huddled there together trying to stay warm. And I can't think of any more things.
Let me ask you this. What is your date of birth and where were you born?
10/2/10/36. And I was born in the house my father was 3 miles south of here on 45.
Okay.
It's a farm.
Now this interview is by Scott Davis, and we're doing this for the Cane Hill Oral History Project, so we want to be sure we have your permission to use this video for reproduction and educational purposes.
Yes.
Thank you. Tell me about your parents.
Well, my father was Archie Reed, and he had lived there on that farm his whole life. And my mother was Esther Collins. Shannon, her mother was a Shannon. And my grandmother was a Freeman, so I'm related to almost everyone in this area, one way or another. And they grew a lot of cattle, and they milked cows for pet milk. And had a few, used to be an orchard. That whole farm was in orchards, but most of them went bad, so he'd turn them over into a beef cattle. Is what we had there at the last.
Tell me about your siblings.
I had four. I had 3 brothers and 1 sister. My sister is older than me, and then I had 3 younger brothers. My brother Leonard, and then Howard, and then John.
Tell me more about your family business. You said they were farming.
It was farming mainly. I can remember one time Dad says, well, we're going to have tomatoes this year, and he planted about 10 acres of tomatoes. That's a lot of work. And anyhow, he picked them and took them to market and so on, but all 5 of us kids was out there helping, of course. And
did you take them to the canning factory?
Yes, the canning factory here in Cane Hill. Oh, and the pottery, they had, back when Cane Hill first started, we had a pottery place here. And according to Conroe Miller, they got all the clay from on the farm where I grew up, 3 miles east of here. And my sister and I, that was our entertainment. We'd dig into that clay and we made dishes and all kinds of things, and thought everybody had clay like that, but evidently they don't.
Was it red clay?
Yes.
Oh, Nick. Tell me about your family routines at home. What would be some of the things you would do on a regular basis at home?
Okay, on Saturday, my sister and I did the ironing, and my grandmother lived with us for all these years. And so there was 8 of us every meal. And of course, she cooked biscuits and cornbread every meal. And we just had ordinary farm food, and mostly pork on our meat, because they didn't have refrigeration when I was young. We didn't get electricity until after World War II, which it finally came down our way. So I can remember when that refrigerator come in, I expected it to be like the pictures, but it didn't have all those cakes and pies in it. But I can still remember how happy we were when we got electricity.
Tell me about your earliest memories of Cane Hill.
First grade, we got off the bus and we had to walk all the way across the campus to the White House over by where Bobby lives now. I don't know the name of the building, but that's where we had first, second, and third grade. And after that, they moved the first grade over to the main building, and that was the lunchroom. And we used to walk all the way over there for lunch. And there at first, it was free. They had to bring canned fruits and vegetables, and you brought a certain amount for each kid. And they had those. And then after that, they started charging a nickel a dinner. For each person a nickel for the free lunch. Well, it wasn't free, it cost a nickel. But anyway, I can still remember how cold it was walking across the campus to get over there for school. And then after that, we came to the south room in the college building, and that's where we had third, fourth, and fifth grade in there, and then we moved to the north room there.
What was it like going to school at Cane Hill?
I think it was wonderful. If I look back at the schools now and back then, we learned. It was really a lot of math, a lot of reading and writing. They taught us how to write pretty.
Tell me about some of your classmates, some of your friends. Maybe.
Okay. Hazel and George Biggs. Hazel was a McCracken at that time. We all started in first grade together. And Ray and Gay Brawley. And Gay was my best friend still is. All these years we've kept in touch. And let's see, Bob Remington was in our class. I think Ronnie Reinhardt started first grade, and then his folks moved to Lincoln. So he just went part of the first grade with us. And it wasn't a very big class. I can't remember the others in it. That's about it on them. Well, anyway, let me finish with Hazel and George Biggs. Of course, they married each other. She was a McCracken, and they married each other. And then my daughter married their son. And so all through the years, they've been very close friends of ours.
Good. What stores and businesses do you remember in Cane Hill when you were growing up?
I remember I remember Shaker Yates having this building. And we'd come down and sometimes we could get candy, and part of the times we couldn't. But we always bought our little Big Chief tablets here at Shaker's that was our paper to school, And it was hard to keep them because we'd use them up pretty fast. But anyway, that, and let's see, that was about the only store that was open here at that time. Now, we did most of our shopping at Clyde when it was open, the Mercantile down there, until it closed. And then, of course, Dad come on up here, and Jenkins' store finally opened and so on. But I can remember Daddy, one of his uncles had a store here because he used to come shopping with them, and they'd always give him candy, and that was when he was a little boy. And he always talked about the old mill wheel. And him and his friends used to get on the mill wheel when it's running, and they'd ride it around and jump off on the other side. And they didn't much like them doing that, but that didn't stop them. I'm trying to remember things that happened here at school.
What other stories about the mill do you remember? I mean, it wasn't in operation when you were, do you remember ever seeing it work?
No, I don't remember seeing it operating, no.
Do you remember hearing about it from stories?
Just hearing about it from Dad, and I've heard Brian talk about it too. And, that's about all I can remember there. The bus come out to pick us up, and it went on down to Uncle Hoyt's and Aunt Rosie's, that's Brian and Billy's parents, and it turned around in their driveway and came back up here, and they picked us up next. And for a while, Lois Nolan, she lived on the Nolan farm, and she'd walk up and catch the bus and when she's teaching us, and she'd ride the bus with us.
What did y'all do for fun when you were kids?
Mostly run around. Played marbles, played horseshoes. We played a lot of horseshoes in the front yard. We run around, and I can't remember much of.
What about the adults in the community, and what did they do for fun?
Well, they had rook parties. They played rook. Most of the people, older people in this community didn't want face cards. They thought that was not good. The churches did not like them. So anyhow, the rook has numbers on there, so that was okay. So they played rook. And so they'd have parties, or, you know, people get together and they'd have parties with that. And ice cream. We had ice cream, homemade ice cream a lot, because, one thing, in the winter, the ice was frozen and you didn't have to go buy it. You could just get it. And of course, they had the dairy, so ice cream was one of the main things. And you'd have your friends in, your neighbors in, to have an ice cream social kind of thing.
What do you know about the history of the college, and what did you know about it as a kid?
As a kid, it was the first college in Arkansas. That's the only thing I can remember being put, you know, we all believed it was the first college of Arkansas. I still do. And my family came here in 1827. That's when the Reeds first got here, and most of them have stayed. And so anyway, they were charter members of Cane Hill Church, and
what do you know about the restoration work that's going on here in Cane Hill?
I think it's wonderful. I think it would have fell down shortly, and I think if we hadn't, the community hadn't gotten together back, 30, 40 years ago, it would have fell down. They put the bars through those, that, I don't know what they're called, but they pulled the building back together with those bars and so on. And I believe if they hadn't have done that, it would have failed. And then of course we started the festival just to get money to try to keep it up, you know, keep it from falling down. And it was close to it a lot of times because the termites had gotten into the building, and there was this much where that floor had dropped down, and there a crack around the edge of the building, you know, where the termites had eaten away the joists under it. So.
Now, were you involved in the festival from the very beginning?
Yes.
Tell us more about that.
I can tell you where it started. We had a housewarming for Janice and Glenn Martin. That's a house across from where the Greens live. And we had a housewarming there. There was just a few invited people, really. And Mary Jean and Ed and I were in the kitchen talking, and we was talking about how we needed to raise some money here. And we got on the idea, why don't we try to start a festival? So we discussed it a while, and finally we decided that we'd give it a try, and it's been going ever since. We didn't have many people come that first year, and every year it's grown a little. And
was it initially a spring festival and then switched to fall? Tell us about that.
First 3 years, it rained on us. Every year nearly, it rained. And so we got the idea to make it a harvest festival. If I remember right, Danny Irwin come up with that idea of changing it to a harvest festival. And then I knew that my folks had an old sorghum mill sitting out there. And I said, well, why don't we try the molasses? And so we all agreed to do that. And so they got Mr. Carlton from down, he made it all the time, and he came up and showed Leonard how to do it. And they borrowed a pan from him the first year or two, and he came and taught them how to do it, and Leonard's been doing it ever since because he finally learned how to do it without the Carltons helping. And then Tim Reed made a copper pan for them and donated it. And after that, they had the nice copper pan, which is what you need. And and then they got a different, I think the kids got on that old post that goes through the one that you have the mule running the mill, and kind of broke it. So anyhow, there was a man up in Missouri that donated another one, and that's one they use. And they can run it with a tractor.
Do you remember people making sorghum back in the old days?
I do not. We had the mill, and it was set up out there, and there was everything was set there to do it, but we never did do it while I was growing up.
Okay. What would you like to see them do with the old college building once it's finished?
I would like to see us have a lot of, rent it for affairs like weddings and reunions and things like that. I think it'd be great to do that and to use it.
What other stories can you think of that I haven't asked about, that memories you have or stories from Cane Hill you want to share?
I can't think of any more. I'll think of them after I go home.
Do you think, can you remember any funny things or any...
They played ping pong upstairs in the auditorium. That was one of the things they did, the ping pong. And I thought, oh good, we're going to go upstairs, we'll get to play ping pong too, because they never let us because we was too young. And of course I never did move upstairs, so I didn't ever get to play ping pong with them. And they had the seniors and juniors always had a play at the end of the year. And they were really funny, most of them. And, I'll tell you this other story. There was a lady that got hurt real bad, and we needed a fundraising for her. So the whole community got together, and we had a play we put together. And everybody was somebody. And Reverend Ralph Thesey, he was the man in charge of this here machine that's supposed to turn these old people into young people. And there was about almost everybody in the community got involved in that play.
What year would this have been? Or about when?
It's been at least 25 years ago. I don't know what year that'd be, but about that time. And anyway...
what about the other play they did that was about the Cane Hill play? That's not
okay, that's a different one.
That one.
The first one, Lon Moore was the narrator. And they did it on the steps on the east side of the building. And people come and they sit and he read, and other people acted it out. And it was interesting, and it told the whole history of here, how they came in 1827, they came here, and the cane just grew wild everywhere around here. It's still down in Clyde, a lot of it, and there's some over here. But they called it Cane Hill because of that, but that was probably the third or fourth name it had. And anyhow, they were enterprising. They planted a lot of orchards in the area, apples mainly.